So we've done a good chunk of the heavier fabrication with the roll cage and suspension arms and all that sort of thing. The next part of the build is going to actually need a reasonable amount of sheet steel. So stuff like this needs to be repaired. We need to make wheel arches. So yeah, we're doing a lot of sheet steel sort of jobs. So I needed to buy a few tools. I still need to buy more. I love buying tools. It's one of my hobbies. And I needed a shrinker and a stretcher. So I went to the store and a foot operated shrinker was about 400 bucks. And it looked okay, the quality wasn't through the roof, but it didn't look shabby at all. But 400 bucks, I was like, and it was just a shrinker. I think you could have changed the jaws out on it to turn it back into a stretcher. It seemed really fiddly, but they had two hand-operated shrinker and a stretcher for about 200 bucks. So I went down that route, and then one of the projects we did with the lads was making foot operated. So check this out. So they banged this out in about a night, cut all the material, most of it scrap that I had lying around. We managed to just sort of, one of those projects as well where we've just made it up as we go along, and the end result's actually quite good. So we got a foot operated shrinker. So this is just tacked together at the moment. I tacked it together this morning, and I still need to put a return spring so that flings back up on its own, but pretty happy with that, considering it was just steel from out the spare rack. And we now have a foot operated stretcher and a foot operated shrinker. I've got to put that one together still for half the price. So good job, lads. They hustled pretty hard on that one to get all that cut in one afternoon session, and they're doing really well. So good work, boys. So that's where we're up to. We've been making some machinery, and we still got heaps to do. So let's keep doing it. So because the young lads worked really hard, I basically just have a stand kit here. I just got to glue it together with the welder. So got all the parts that I need because I've already made the other one. I've got all the nuts and the bolts and all the little brackets and tools and everything ready to go. So all that's left to do is just get a frame made. So let's get stuck into it.
Having no effect upon the killer.
I'm just cutting some clearances here in that top mounting plate so that I'm able to get bigger parts of sheet steel into the stretcher. And once that's all cut up, I'm going to start putting this frame together. So it's a matter of just sort of marking everything up and getting some tack welds. I'm just cleaning everything up there with the grinder so that my welding goes a little bit nicer. Get it in the right spot and tack it. And then you've got to make sure everything's square. Square's your best friend when you're doing this. And then once it's all square and lovely, you're going to always a nice big tack in there. There we go, beautiful. Double check with the square. Always double check, measure twice, weld once. And I'm just putting the top mount here on as well. A couple of tacks on that. So with a project like this, you tack everything up and then away you go, start welding. So this is going to just be a whole stack of welding. And when I was learning the fabrication skills, I had Boilermakers teach me that what you want to hear when you're MIG welding is similar sound to that of when you're cooking crispy bacon on a Sunday morning. So when you've got that nice crisp sound where it's just buzzing away nicely, that's exactly what you're looking for. So the settings for this material and thickness is spot on. So nice little tip there from the Boilermakers. Cheers for that, guys. And I'm going to put a fair bit of stress through these machines with the different leverages and forces that we're applying. So I did make it pretty heavy. I did have a lot of this steel in the steel rack, so I didn't go out and buy any of this. But yeah, this is probably a bit heavier than it needs to be. It's never going to flex or bend, which is nice. So the other thing with your MIG welding is make sure your angles are always right. So moving the job around so that you're in the right angle for welding is a good idea. I'm going to move on here to making the foot pedal. And I'm just drilling a few holes in here so that I can attach my linkage. And what I've done is I'm just going to drill one side of the foot pedal. I'm not going to go all the way through. And then once that's drilled, I'm going to take it back over to the bench. And I'm going to weld a nut to the side. So what this does is this allows me to put a bolt in fairly easy with a nice amount of thread, and it's a quick and easy job, so just welding the nut on there. And then this is the linkage itself, and I'm going to mark it up. So when you're drilling a hole, you never want to just start drilling without being marked up and a center pop. So mark your center, get a nice center pop, so when you come over to the drill press, the drill's got the exact place to follow, and then your hole's exactly in the middle. So this is just a 25 by 3 mil flat bar that I had lying around, but it actually made a really nice bit of linkage. So once the pedal's done and the linkage is made, I'm going to move up to this handle up here, and instead of being hand operated, we want it to be foot operated, so we need a hole in it. So I've marked the exact spot that we found, and then drilling some round bars is always a bit of a trick to it. So what I've got here is a V-block with a center drill, and what that does is it gives you a nice chamfer there for your main drill to follow, and it's a lot easier to get that started right on the top of the curve of some round bar, which you can then go through with a normal type drill. So if you just try to drill a round bar with a normal drill, it can get ugly pretty quick. So once the hole's drilled, I'm going to tap it. Same thing, this allows me to put a threaded bolt into the handle and connect the linkage. So this is a tap, it's actually cutting a thread. So it's just a normal blank hole, and then as you run this through, it cuts a thread in it for a bolt to thread into. So keep them nice and square when you put them in, and then there you can see threading in a nice 8mm bolt there. It goes in lovely like that, and then on the back side I'm going to put a nut just to lock it off so it doesn't work its way loose while we're operating. So once you finish a job like this, coat of paint goes a long way. If you leave the frames just in that blue coating and then the raw steel on the other bits, it starts to go rusty and it looks a bit gross. So once it's all painted up and pretty, it's just a matter of chucking it all together and giving it a test run. So a couple of big hefty bolts under there, chucking the foot pedal on, chucking the linkage on, and we should be all ready to go. Look at that. So foot operated, it's out of shot, but I've got like a pretty hefty spring on it as well. So now it returns on its own. So that allows me to hold a piece of sheet steel with 2 hands. Oh, happy! Hold a sheet steel with 2 hands and then operate the machine with my foot, just making it much more versatile. So you can see here I've got some sheet steel in there, and I'm just shrinking it just as a test piece. This isn't actually for anything, and that allows me to curve it like that, which has lots of different implications. So there we go, you got to chuck a sticker on the end. That's the fun bit, finishing it off. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching. That's my shrinker and stretcher that we've got in the workshop now. Also want to have a massive shout out to Loot for supplying the music for this video. He's got some really nice chill beats if that's what you're into. Head over to his SoundCloud. I've got a link down in the description. Give him some love, and yeah, thanks again, Loot. You're an absolute mad lad. I hope everybody's having a great day. Take it easy.